Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session for finding customers with Google Maps. My name is Daryl, and I'm going to be delivering today's session. But before we jump into the session, there's one housekeeping tip that I'd like to mention. If you're currently experiencing any audio or visual issues, please go ahead and refresh your browser. It should iron out any potential problems. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Daryl. I'll be, of course, delivering today's session. I am a trainer for the Free Skills Training Program, the Google Digital Garage. A little bit about myself. I come from an incredibly diverse background within sales, recruitment, hospitality, learning and development, and of course within tech. But I dedicate the majority of my time to help close the digital skills gap that is so prevalent in our world today through this amazing initiative and many, many others. But I'm not here alone. We're very, very fortunate to have Rashan with us here today, and she can be identified just on the right-hand side if you're viewing us to a laptop or a desktop, and she'll have a little blue spanner next to her name, and she'll be popping a hi within the chat very, very shortly. If you are currently watching us through a mobile device, there's a very good chance that the chat will be just below us. But either way, please make sure you go ahead and pop into that chat and say hi. In order for you to do so, you would be required to have a YouTube account. It's relatively easy to get set up. Once you're all set up, you'll be able to fire over those questions to myself and Rashan. And we really do look forward to any questions, any queries, any emojis. And we're going to have a couple of activities, a couple of questions that we would love for you to get involved with. So please go ahead, keep Rashan on her toes, pop in your hi, let us know where you're tuning in from, let us know your favorite color, let us know your favorite emoji, whatever it may be. Just go ahead and say hello. I said that twice. Next up, this particular live training is part of a broader offering from the Google Digital Garage. So I hugely encourage you to click in the link in the description below. It'll take you to the website and give you a plethora of information, online courses, and many, many more live webinars very similar to this one. Now, we will also be pausing throughout today's session for any particular questions that you may have. But as the session's going along, please feel free to pop those questions into the chat. You've all entered a completely non-judgmental environment where we welcome all types of questions, all types of queries, and we'll do our very best to answer those as we go along. Last but not least, if you would like to have the closed captions for this particular live training, in other words, the subtitles, if you're on a laptop or a desktop, what you can do is hover over the video at the moment. It should open up that toolbar below the video. What you want to look for is a little bit of a cog icon, looks like a gear. Once you tap onto that, you should find a button that says CC, which is the closed captions. Once you tap onto that, you will then be able to get the subtitles for today's session. And from an accessibility point, it may help you because you may or may not have already picked up my accent. I do tend to speak rather fast, but I'll do my very best to slow down, but those subtitles may help you as we start to move along. But that's it. That's pretty much the housekeeping tips for today's session. Please go ahead. We got one welcome from Fashion, Nature, Health and Wellness. Hello to you. Big welcome to you. We got Shatira, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. A hi to you as well. And anybody else that's currently watching, please get involved with today's chat. We want to hear from you. We want to know what are you thinking? What are your thoughts? What are your ideas? And hopefully you'll get engaged with a couple of those questions as we dive in. But with that being said, we're going to think, well, what are we going to be covering over the next 60 minutes? Well, number one, we've broken it down to 3 basic steps, and this is pretty much for all the Google Digital Garage sessions, is number one, we're going to look at how we can create your listing and get verified. And we need to do this in order for you to start changing anything within your profile, but we'll definitely touch base on that shortly. Then we'll jump into how do we optimize your listing with your key information. And while we are optimizing your profiles with your key information, that's hopefully going to increase your visibility and hopefully allow your customers to find you just a little bit more effectively. Last but not least, we're then going to jump into how do we then engage with customers through your Google business profile using some amazing features. Now, with that being said, this is an hour session. We're going to do our very best to give you as much information as possible, but sometimes this can be a little bit overwhelming. And if it is overwhelming, just to give you a little peace of mind, this particular live training will be available for approximately 24 hours as a recording. All you'll need to do is click on the same link that you used to join today's session, and you'll be able to rewind, fast forward and really absorb the information at your own pace. And maybe you would like to share with a family or friend and give them a little bit more help in terms of finding customers with Google Maps. So that recording will be available for approximately 24 hours. So please do take full advantage. And if you miss it, don't you worry, there'll be many, many sessions in the future, especially on this particular topic. But you may be still thinking, well, Daryl, this hour is still a lot of information. And I still, going through all of the recordings, maybe you're struggling. And if you are currently in the UK, Google is offering free one-to-one mentoring sessions to small businesses and charities within the UK. Now, I'm proud to be a part of this along with many other digital experts ready and waiting to help you. So if you're in the UK, please go ahead and take down this link, which is g.co/UK mentoring. And if you know of anybody that would hugely benefit from this amazing initiative, for example, a small business or charity within the UK, please go ahead and pass on that link to them. And hopefully we'll either see yourself or somebody else that you passed on to this amazing initiative. So please don't take that. Please go ahead and take that link, which is g.co/UK mentoring. Well, now the introductions have been done. We now know a little bit more about what we're about to dive into with those 3 basic topics. We now know a little bit about those one-to-one mentoring sessions. Now I want to get all of you wonderful individuals involved in an activity. And what that activity is going to be focused on is I want you all to imagine that you're going out for dinner tonight. Now, there could be a couple of different time zones in terms of where you are right now. It could be midnight, could be early in the morning. Regardless of where you are, think about tonight. You're about to go out for dinner. And I want you to think about how you're going to find a restaurant that you would like to go to. Now, when it comes to shopping and looking for these types of things, a lot of us, and I'm pretty much going to catch you right now, is a lot of us will grab our smartphones. And when we grab our smartphones, we have so much information at our fingertips. So while you're going through this exercise, what I would like you all to pop into the chat is, how did you find this restaurant? It could be any restaurant. Maybe you're going for Indian, maybe you're going for pizza, maybe you're going for sushi, maybe you're going for, I don't know, pie and chips, for example. It doesn't really matter what you decide to go for dinner, but what do you currently fancy to go? What do you want to go shopping, or what do you want to go eat for dinner? Then what I want you to do is think about, how did you search for that restaurant? And pop it into the chat and let myself and Rashawn know, how did you search for that restaurant? Then when you started searching for restaurants, you probably came across a couple of restaurants and you probably had quite a few options. Then how did you choose which result was good for you? As you are thinking about that, I'm going to give you an example of what I would do. But I want you all to think about what food you're going to go shopping for and how did you search for that restaurant. For me, for example, I will probably want to go on the hunt for pizza tonight because, I don't know, I've just got the urge to eat some nice cheesy melting pizza. But what I'll do is I'll generally grab my phone. And when I grab my phone, normally what I'll do is I'll jump into Google. Now, for you, it may be Bing, it might be Yahoo, it might be a lot of different places. But let's think about where you would normally go to search for a restaurant. Then we're going to go ahead and pop that in. So how did you choose for that restaurant? Normally what I do is I started to look, I'll go into Google, I'll type in, for example, pizza near me. And when I'm looking for a pizza, there'll be a whole lot of companies put forward towards me. And when there are, I'll normally look at the reviews. Are there a 5-star review? Do they have any reviews that are complimenting their company or their food? Or maybe I'll look at the images or the videos. But while I'm going through this process, there's going to be a couple of things that I want to identify. What am I going to do in terms of locality? If I'm looking to get a pizza tonight, I definitely don't want to travel 50 miles to go buy my pizza. I'm also going to look at how far that pizzeria is, so I go ahead and pick it up. So we got one from Sachtriya, which is nearby location or search for best of it and decide on the reviews and how far and near to me. So very similar to me. Anybody else, feel free to pop your thoughts in terms of how do you choose a result that's right for you. But I think Sachtriya, hopefully I pronounced that correct, is on the money there. Nearby location, search for the best and decide on the review and how far or near it is to you. Now, you still got time. Please go ahead and pop that into the chat. But I'm going to jump into the next point, which is listing your business on Google Maps. Now, this is the first topic. I'm thinking, okay, well, now what we want to do is we want to start being more visible on Google. So we're going to ask you another question, which is what benefits brought by Google Maps listing when you're looking for products or services? So the point we're looking to bring across here is that a lot of us have our smartphones at arm's reach. But have you ever come across a Google Maps listing before? And if you have, what benefits are brought by a Google Maps listing when looking for a product or service? And if you're not quite sure, jump into Google Maps right now and look for a couple of businesses and look at what stands out for you. What are the benefits, do you think, of a company that lists themselves on Google and creating a Google business listing, which we'll be talking about very shortly, is how is that going to be beneficial to them when looking for products or services? So lastly, what benefits are brought by a Google Maps listing when looking for a product or service? I'll give you a little bit of time to pop into the chat. Again, there is no such thing as a terribly wrong answer, or just don't be worried. Don't be worried. Just pop in that into the chat and we'll look at how we can bring that to fruition and really just think about our ideas moving forward, because a Google Maps listing on Google has a lot of advantages. Let's say, for example, I go right now into Google Maps and I look for a company or a pizzeria near me. Normally, it's going to give me quite a lot of information, and it's probably going to give me the information that I want in order to decide, for example, when is the pizzeria open? Then I need to find out how am I going to contact them. And of course, if it's on Google Maps, what it's also going to tell me is how far is that particular pizzeria from me. So a complete listing of Google helps you with customers, helps customers engage with you on, there it is, popping in there from Shatira, probably mispronouncing that. Working hours, reviews, and navigation is a huge advantage. And we've got a big hello from Alim. Big welcome from you from Pakistan. Big welcome. Please go ahead and get involved as much as possible. We've got the wonderful Rashan in the chat, going to be answering any questions or queries. But what you may have missed so far is we jumped into a complete listing on Google helps customers engage with you. And when you have a complete listing, you're more likely to be considered reputable. Not only that, you'll be able to attract more physical and online visits. Then last but not least, you're more likely to lead to a purchase. And you may be thinking, well, why would it lead to a purchase? Well, if we ran through the exercise previously and we looked for a few pizzerias or any restaurant near me, what that is then going to show me is those listings. But then what I'm going to probably do is call them, or I'm going to get the directions to that business to buy that pizzeria. Without that information, it would be a lot more difficult for me as a customer to buy from that restaurant. So I know some of this may seem like, well, this is quite obvious. Well, let me just really lay it out for you. So we're going to jump into a couple of wonderful case studies. But as I'm going through these case studies, I want to remind every single one of you watching is that all of you can do something very similar. The power of Google Tools is going to enable you to start engaging with your customers on a completely different level. So as much as these are huge success stories, I really want to make sure that you all understand that you can be a success story too. So what we're going to do is we're going to now talk a little bit about these three businesses, which is our Go East Chinese Supermarket, Uncle John's Bakery, and the Little Box of Books, and how they managed to keep customers in the loop during the pandemic. Now, we all know how difficult the pandemic was, and it may continue to be because we're leaving the pandemic and we're coming out of COVID, but this is also important information that we need to put forward to our customers about our business. So when it comes down to the wonderful Go East Chinese market or supermarket, I'm going to go ahead and read this for you. So Go East Chinese Supermarket listed themselves on Google Maps once lockdown started, and this led to 100% increase in online visitors. Why is it 100%? Because essentially they had no online presence before. Most of these visitors were based locally, and this meant that the owner could market her products online and let customers know that her supermarket was still open for business. Now, even if we think about today, it doesn't necessarily have to be in COVID times or the pandemic. Let's say, for example, a few of you watching here today have just recently opened up a business. If you have just recently opened a business, by adding or creating a Google Maps listing, you can enable your customers to learn more about you. Hey, we're open. We are so far away. This is the times that we are open. Next up, we have inform customers of changes to your business. And this is absolutely crucial because when it comes to the internet, it never sleeps. It's always available. So if you put information on the internet that's going to be available 24/7, we need to make sure that information is up to date all of the time. So Uncle John's Bakery is another business that was able to benefit from the Google Maps during the pandemic. Baker's Samuel's business was able to inform customers of their new opening times, their new practices, considering the practices when COVID came around, and providing them with links to their online shop, enabling them to continue to sell during lockdown. So essentially what they did is they pivoted their business to an online version to enable their customers to continuously buy through their online shop, which hopefully maintained that business and allowed them to grow. And now we're in a time where they could still get walk-ins because, we're again coming out of COVID and people were now a little bit more flexible to walk around and start buying things. But that doesn't mean that the online business will just flop, because this is going to complement each other. You're going to be able to come to the shop, or you're going to enable yourself to go to the online shop and buy from the customer. So regardless, it's going to be beneficial moving forward. Then we have drive traffic and sales, the wonderful box, the final case study we're going to talk about today, which is the little box of books. Founder Lindsay Pollard soon realized that there was an increase in the number of children being homeschooled, meant that the need for books would increase dramatically. She used Google tools to find new customers. Since March, her website visits have tripled, leading her to sell more books than ever before. In fact, Little Box of Books sold the most books that they have ever sold in 1 month. Now, I would love to talk about these for days because these are fantastic case studies and they've done fantastic for their businesses. But I want all of you to realize is that you can do something similar, regardless if it's COVID or if it's not, or for a pandemic, regardless. If you've got an in-person store or you've got an online store, how can we start driving more customers and allowing them to find you? Because that is the purpose of today's session, is to help customers find you through Google Maps. So let's go ahead and jump into those basic steps on how do we set up a Google Maps listing. Well, you're going to create a listing on Google Business Profile. Now I'm going to give you those links very, very shortly. Once you've created your listing on Google Business Profile, you're then going to complete that profile. And I'm going to expand on this a little bit later, but completing your profile is so, so important. Regardless if it's Google Business Profile or if it's your LinkedIn profile or if it's any profile that you have about yourself or your business, it's very, very important that we complete that profile. Next up, we need to verify the business, and I'll be showing you how to do so. Next up, we then need to populate that listing. And the reason we populate that listing is because we're going to give everybody the up-to-date information, but then we need to make sure that we enable more information and continuously update this profile. Why? Because you and me and everybody, what do we thrive on? We thrive on up-to-date, relevant information. So hopefully you're still sticking with me. We're going to jump into the first part, which is about creating your Google Business Profile. What you're going to do is you're going to jump onto business.google.com and you're going to go ahead and set up your profile. Now, a little bit of a pro tip here. What I would recommend is maybe you feel comfortable on a desktop so you can organize your whole listing on an actual device, for example, a desktop or a laptop, but it would be incredibly beneficial for you to have the app as well. So once you have the app, you'll be able to now access that information from a mobile perspective. So let's go ahead and jump into the next point, which is ensuring profile is complete. Now, when I'm saying it's complete, this is probably never really ends, but the core information is the information that your customers will require. So opening the address, of course, we need to know how to get to your business. Very, very important. Without that address, Google Maps or Google cannot add a direction path for your customers to find that business. Next up, the opening hours. Now, I'll tell you a little bit of a story. Just after the pandemic, I wanted to go explore. Who didn't? We just wanted to get out there and start breathing in some fresh air and being around people. As soon as it ended, I wanted to go find a nice coffee shop. So I jumped onto Google Maps and I started to search for a coffee shop near me, just like we did probably at the beginning of today's session. And I found a coffee shop and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. They said they're open from 9 until 9. That's pretty cool. So what I did, I grabbed my laptop, I walked out my house. It's about a 15-minute walk, which I didn't mind because I wanted to get out the house. But once I arrived, it was closed. Now, that is an incredibly huge pain point for me as a customer because I'm looking to a listing. It says that it's open, but it's not actually open. So when it comes to your opening times, we need to be very, very considerate and make your customers understand when you are open. Now, some people will say, well, I'm an online store. I'm open 24/7. Well, let's think of it from a perspective. If you say you're open 24/7, can your customers get hold of you 24/7? Can they call you at 1 o'clock at night? Can they message you at 2 o'clock in the morning? Probably not. Next up, contact details, making sure they're accurate. Visual content, we'll talk more about that very, very shortly. We are visual people in general. We need to make sure that we capture the attention of your customers with the right photos that will be relevant to your business. And then, of course, your logo to make sure that you stand out from the rest and everybody can identify what your business is about. Then we want to go ahead and get verified on Google Maps. You will need to claim your business profile on Google. In order to do this, all you're going to do is if there is an existing business that you have, you're going to search for that business on Google Maps, and then you're going to get something that looks like that on the screen that you see on the far right, and it's going to say claim this business. You can do this via Google Maps. Simply search for the business on Google Maps. Once you found it, click on claim your business and the listing will expand and you'll be able to manage it now. However, in order for you to change any information within that Google business profile, you will need to verify your account. And in order to verify your account, once you're in your dashboard, by the way, what you see on screen right now is the Google business profile dashboard. This is kind of the way I like to think of it. It's your home page, your home dashboard of how you can navigate through your profile and start adding more information. But in order for you to change information within that profile, you need to verify with Google to say that that is your business. And there's multiple ways of doing this. All you're going to do is you're going to click onto, you're going to click onto verify on the dashboard, and you can either get a 5-digit code that is sent in the post that will arrive at your physical location, and you will need that 5 digits in order to verify your account. Alternatively, there are other ways. You might simply just need to have a phone call, or maybe you can be emailed that type of information as well. However, it really depends on what business you are and what offering it is. So it could be the 5-digit code, or it could be via email, or it could be via the phone. It really depends on the business that you have. But with that, we're going to jump into populating your Google Maps listing. And before I jump into this Google Maps listing or populating it, I want you to know if there are any questions, because we're going to come to the first Q&A section very, very shortly. And please don't be shy. If you have any questions or queries, please pop it into the chat. I would love to hear from you as well as Rashan. So in terms of populating your Google Maps listings, you're going to manage your listing. And how do we do this? We keep the information relevant. And we want to make sure we update those opening hours and try to avoid any potential pain points. If you're open, make sure your customers can contact you. If you're closed, that's when you're closed. If you feel like you can say you're open 24/7, make sure that the customers can contact you 24/7, or if there is a chat function or some way in which they can communicate with you. But in my mind, if you say you're open and I can't contact you and I can't do much, you aren't really open. Then we're going to go ahead and keep your content fresh. And this is normally quite obvious, but I'm going to give you a couple of pro tips a little bit later in today's session, talking about how do we keep that content fresh. Now, I don't see if there's any questions. There aren't any at the moment, which is perfectly okay. We're going to come to the next Q&A very, very shortly, and we have some Q&A time at the very end of today's session. But since there's no questions, myself and Rashan would love to know your feedback. Please go to goo.gle/Digital Garage feedback, and it would mean the world to us if you could just tell us a little bit about what you thought about today's session. With that, we're then going to jump into optimizing your listing. Now, when it comes to optimizing your listing, we really want to make sure that we stand out from the rest. And how do we do this? Well, there's a couple of tips on how we can stand out. Well, number one is including the key information. Now, when I say key information, what do you think is the key information that your customers need? Now, there is no right or wrong answer here, because when it comes to including key information, depending on what sector and what your offering is in terms of your product or your service, we need to make sure that they've got the information that they need in order to access your service or your products. Then we want to make sure we gain customer reviews. Now, I am a huge fan of gaining reviews. When a lot of companies think, well, I just expect reviews to come in. Well, we need to be a little bit more proactive when it comes to getting those reviews. Then we need to utilize posts and photos. And most importantly, we need to leverage those insights. And I'll be breaking down those very, very shortly. But just think about those four main points when you've created your Google business listing. Include key information about what you consider key information and what your customers consider key information. Gain those customer reviews to create almost a third-party perspective, giving you credibility, making you more trustworthy. And as mentioned, I think someone mentioned at the beginning, when they were looking for a restaurant, they definitely looked at those reviews. So that's not something that's just going to happen overnight. We need to make sure we're encouraging our customers to do so. Then we want to make sure we post as much as possible. And I like to think of Google Business Profile as somewhat of a user-friendly social media profile that will allow customers to get the core information that they require. I'll be talking more about that in a second, but you want to provide as much information as possible. I'm going to run you through a couple of statistics. 96% are more likely to visit the business when the opening hours are on its listing. Let's face it. Let's come back to my example of me searching for a coffee shop near me. If I don't see the opening times, I don't want to risk me driving or walking to that place and then it's being closed. So if you have opening times, make sure they are listed. 42% of increase in direction requests for your business with photos. This pretty much goes hand in hand when you create a profile on Google Business Profile is you're going to have a pin location, and that's really going to help people find you and navigate towards your business. Next up, 90% are more likely to interact with you if you have a phone number that is visible. All of this information is important because all of us and the majority of us in the world want information, and we want information now. Like we want to find it. We want to find that restaurant. We don't have time to faff around. If we do have to faff around, we're going to go to your competitor, and your competitor is going to have opening times, phone number, menu, photos, videos, everything. Where do you think I'm going to go? Probably going to go to your competitor. So this may seem incredibly obvious, but a lot of businesses overlook this. So when it comes down to your core information, updating those business hours, all you're going to be doing is you're going to jump onto that dashboard that you can see on screen right now. You're going to navigate to the info tab on the far left, and you're going to update those opening hours. And please make sure they are accurate. And if you have seasonal public holidays, make sure that you update those times if that does arise. Next up, add the business description, which is very, very, very important, is if somebody finds you on Google Maps, for example, and you're a pizzeria or your retail store or whatever business you are, they want to know what you're about. And how do we do this? We think of a few short sentences within the business description to explain who you are, what your offering is, and what your expertise is. That's essentially what they need. They don't need to read a whole paragraph or a whole website about what you're about. Remember, time is of the essence. The average human attention span is close to 8 seconds. Some even say 3 seconds. So bad that we have really bad attention spans. And I forgot what was I going to say. No, I'm just kidding. But attention spans are slow. So we need to make sure that this core information is there, ready for them to pick up. Then we want to jump into a couple of COVID-specific information. Now, I know we have all just come out the back end of the pandemic, and COVID is hopefully going to be something of the past. But maybe you've got a couple of things in place right now. For example, you're going to open up, your opening times may have changed and they may vary, or maybe you've had existing, or maybe the previous company that you claimed the business for had those times for the specifics around COVID and the timings, or around business description, or whichever it may be. But even if it isn't COVID specific information, we should start thinking about updating those opening hours as much as possible, using attributes to highlight service options. And I'll be talking more about that in a second. What options do you have? Adding a post to your profile, turning on messaging, which will allow you to create that two-way conversation to answer any particular questions that your customers may have. They go, oh, I found this amazing business on Google Maps, but I don't know much about them, so maybe I can message them. Oh, there's a button for me to message them. They can start that conversation, which could lead to a sale. Then add a business description. I've already mentioned that before, hours, and then utilize something called Google Trends. Now, we don't have much time to dive into Google Trends right now, but what I highly recommend that you all do is write down Google Trends. What Google Trends is going to allow you to do is find out what people are searching for in terms of the keywords in any given country within a certain time frame. Now, it's not going to tell you how many times somebody searched that keyword, but it's going to give you a percentage, or I suppose, yeah, kind of the percentage up to 100 on how popular that particular keyword is. Very, very useful. Then we jump into highlight the temporary closures. Well, hopefully you're not going to have any temporary closures, but if you do decide to close down for maintenance or any particular reason why you need to close down, we need to update that business profile always. Why? Because it's available 24/7. Then we need to think about creating engaging posts. Now, I want you to put the mind frame of, actually, in a show of the chat, how many are on social media? And I'd like you to pop in your favorite emoji if you are on social media. I'm going to go ahead and pop in my favorite emoji, which is this little guy right here. So there we go. We've got one already, smiley faces. And I think we've got a lot of us are on social media. But if we are on social media, I'm assuming that a lot of us are posting either to family or friends, or maybe from a business point of view. But I want you to think about your social media profile when you're thinking about your Google Maps listing or your Google business profile. Every time you post on social media, think about how you can use that content and then post within the Google business profile. Now, it's not to say that people are going to be scrolling through Google Maps listings and going, "Oh, this is a cool business. This is a cool business." They're not going to be doing that like they do on social media and Instagram, where they're scrolling through it. But what they will do, what this is going to help you with, is you're going to update your business with the most recent up-to-date information. And you're actually giving your customers more insight to what your business is about. So if you create engaging posts, add a title, which is very important. Maybe you've got an announcement. Maybe it's got a huge launch. Maybe you've launched a new product. Maybe you've got a new service. Maybe you hired a new member of the team. Maybe you've opened another store. Now the list goes on, but make sure that's clear as day within the title. Then provide a call to action, a very commonly used word or acronym within the digital marketing realm, which is a CTA, which is, when I spoke about the attention span, that we all have bad attention spans, we need to start creating content almost for goldfish. And what do goldfish do? They just follow, and they follow. Where do I go? Where do I go? And that's what we need to do. We need to create that for your customers. If they get captivated by your business and they see your post, how can they click on that? And if they click on that button, where does it take them? To your business? To buy something? Where is it going to take them? Then we're going to add photos and videos to really capture your audience with whatever photos you do have. So photos are really, and videos especially, are very captivating. Then write a clear description about what that post is about. Is it a launch? Is it a new product? Are you reopening? Are you closing? And then make sure that your posts are accurate. We do not want to mislead your customers with any wrong information, should we say. Then we're going to jump into, after we created these engaging posts, we want to think about how we can think about reviews. And reviews are so important. I'll give you an example. I was very fortunate to work in the physical location of the Google Digital Garage in the south of England, near Portsmouth, before the pandemic. When we had this physical store, we were all about training individuals and helping people learn more about digital skills. But one of our goals was to get over 300 reviews. And what we noticed is that some people would leave us a review, but if we didn't ask people, they wouldn't leave a review. So if you ever have a situation when any of your customers come up to you and go, "Wow, that's an amazing product," or "That is fantastic service," or they compliment you, all I would recommend that you respond is like, "Wow, that is amazing to hear." But what would mean the world to me is if you could just take what you just said and pop it in a review on our Google business profile. What that will allow us to do is get a little bit more insight to what you just said and let our customers know how amazing you think our products are. Very, very important to do that. Then encourage customers to leave reviews. 2 out of 3 of people say positive reviews were the important factor in deciding which businesses to buy from. That's one of the main reasons why I buy from a particular business or charity or organization. Not buy from a charity or organization, from a business, should we say. But it's because of those reviews. You as a business can shout on the rooftops on how amazing you are, but what's really going to give it real meaning is if your customers talk about your business. So I'm going to put a question out there, which is, what could you do to encourage customer reviews? Pop it into the chat. Let myself and Rashan know How could you encourage customer reviews? Now, you can't steal my example. Remember, I asked you and I said, if someone compliments your business, you take it and pop it into the Google Maps listing. So we've got another question coming in, which I'll get to very, very shortly. But I'm going to give you some time to think about this. But what have you done, or what could you do? Now, remember, there could be something that you pop in the chat today that may resonate with somebody else. So please go ahead and pop into that chat. How would you, or how could you encourage customers to leave reviews? Oh, Sachatira, perfect. Good service. That is one of the best ways to start. Is you've got great service and they love your service. That is probably going to be one of the reasons why I leave a review. You got another one in terms of offers. Yes. So maybe you want to offer something, or ambience. I think you worded for ambience as well. So a lot of great words that you're using there. And there's so many good ways to encourage customer reviews. But to be perfectly honest, in my opinion, the best way to get reviews is to ask for them. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to walk down the street and ask every single person, hey, can you leave us a review? Hey, can you leave us a review? But any sort of encounter with your customers, any times perhaps maybe you've sold them something and you've got a follow-up email and you ask them to leave a review, or some customer comes up to you and explains on how amazing their service is, ask them to leave a review. Another one would be to show them how to leave a review, which is normally the biggest point to overcome to get more reviews. Is some people really want to leave reviews, but they don't know where to go. So sometimes just showing them. So love that. Thanks so much for popping that into the chat, but utilize photos and videos to stand out. I want to take a few minutes to focus on the last point in more detail. It's not only written posts that can have an impact, but photos are a great media form that you could utilize. Business listings with photos get 40% more requests for directions. In addition, 39% of customers say that they will stop engaging with the site if images do not appear. If it wasn't enough, a whopping 90% of people said that they are more likely to visit a business with photos on Google search results pages. So we start to realize how important this is. Having those photos and having those videos out there is really, really going to help you show your customers what you're about. What is your motto? What is your business about? What is your team about? What is the culture? How so much can be shown through those videos. A couple of top tips for taking those photos. Well, we're going to jump into that now. We need to think about the lighting. We need to think about the focus of what it's focused on, the editing and the framing. And I'm going to be breaking down those very, very shortly. But I don't want to overwhelm anyone when it comes down to these 4 main tips. You do not need £1,000 million or dollar camera. You do not need lighting. You do not need a massive PC to start editing. You don't need to have hiring a photographer. A lot of us have, and I'm not going to make the assumption everybody does, but a lot of us have our smartphone on pretty much at arm's reach. And you're probably all grabbing it right now, or you may be even watching this on your actual smartphone. So this smartphone will allow you to overcome a lot of these things. So to give you a couple of examples, we've got a couple of do's and a couple of don'ts. So when it comes to the do's, on the top there, we have an example of good framing. It's very, very well lit in terms of the exterior. And if I walked past that company or that business, I would probably identify it if I saw it in real life. The following one is the interior. It's very, very well lit. And the last one, if you can, people love photos where people are smiling, or even videos. So when it comes down to these 3, the framing is good, the lighting is good. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear apart the bottom 3. Don't worry, the business owners can't hear us or hear me. But at the bottom left, I'm not quite sure what that is. It looks like 2 people are high-fiving each other. That could be a bar, that could be a games room, that could be, I don't even know what it is. So it's not really going to help me if I found that on a Google Maps listing. The second one, I'm pretty much going to skip that because we can't even see it. It's so blurry. And then the last one is photos at work. Now, you can see the comparison between the top one and the bottom one. The bottom one just looks like it's a picture of somebody on a laptop with a phone. Not quite sure what is going on there. It doesn't really encompass what the internal or people are working on at work. So let's give a couple of great examples of what we should think about. When it comes down to the exterior photos, well, number one, we need to make sure that the business name is visible. Almost all businesses will have a title or have it on their shop front in the actual business. And what you'll notice is it's not taken from an angle, it's not skew, it's not focused on one point, it's taken from a frame perspective. And why is that? Is because if I was walking down the street and I saw that picture, I can identify it immediately. Next up, we want to make sure that the shop front is in frame. So again, try to avoid those funny angles. And lastly, you could locate this business if you were walking down the street. That is the main point, and that is why we are creating these photos. When it comes to the interior photos, what we want to do is we want to start insinuating what the business is about. So first of all, the image is bright and well lit. So I highly recommend you take your photos during the day. Then we want to make sure that there's a whole range of selections of products on show, especially if you have a coffee shop, for example, or a shop where you've got products that you're going to sell. And not only that, it's going to give you an idea or infer what the kind of business is about and what services and what products are sold. If I look at this photo, I can see a wonderful barista making coffee at a coffee machine, and it looks like a couple of coffee beans on the right-hand side and a couple of great plants that makes it really nice and vibey and I suppose just warm. But the main message we're looking to grab across is the top left-hand side, where we look at a picture and we can almost identify what that business is about. Lastly, we're going to jump into photos at work. When it comes to photos at work, we need an image that clearly presents your products and your services on offer and their quality. You can see the quality on service on offer right now. If I had to go to that barber, I'd be like, wow, that's a pretty clean and organized barber or hairdresser. Then you've got the great atmosphere, which is the decor of the business. And these pictures could lead to go, you know what? I like this. I want to go for a haircut tomorrow. Now, just imagine you didn't have that photo. And many businesses don't. They think, well, they're just going to come and they'll see it when they get here. But we have to realize we live in a mobile world. Everybody is on their smartphones and everybody's looking for businesses. And if they find a business, they want to learn as much as they can within the few seconds that they have. And once they have learned about it, they make the decisions on the information that you provide. Okay, I'd love to go here. Why? Because it's got a great photo and I like that environment. However, the reason I didn't go to another business is because they got one photo of the exterior and I don't really know what it looks like inside. So I'm going to take a calculated decision and go to the one that's got more photos. So again, this may seem incredibly obvious, but please don't overlook it. And these photos wouldn't be something that you create once off and then just leave. These are going to be continuous photos, just like you're posting on social media. Now, when we have got all these photos and we've got ourselves all up to date with all our information, we now need to think about how do we now going to optimize for success? Well, within the Google Business Profile, you will get insights. You will get the ability to dive into the insights. That's the words I'm looking for. And those insights, don't worry about having to squint. The first one is about how customers can search for your business. The next one is how customers view your business on Google. The next one is how many phone calls you got. The next one is direction requests. And there's many, many more insights that you can get. But once you've started to drive traffic to your business and people have accessed and used your Google Business Profile, that's going to be saved. And that information will be provided to you just like you see on screen right now. And what this is going to enable you to do is start to think of a more strategic approach on how you can start to drive more business. Let's say, for example, there is a huge incline in phone calls, like so many phone calls, but you've only got one person on the phone. So maybe you can think about how can you add another person during business hours to handle all of those phone calls instead of losing those leads. Or maybe you're getting a lot of views on Google search, but you're not getting so many Google views on Google Maps. So we need to think about how we can boost one of the maps and maybe we're not providing the right information. So when it comes to those insights, there's a couple of things that we can do. It comes down to the how, what, where, when, and how is how customers found your listing, which is incredibly important because once you identify how your customers find you, you can now focus your attention on that area. And then you can also broaden your horizons and start finding other funnels to start driving people to your business. Then once they did find you, what did they do? Then where are they coming from? What is the locality? You can start finding out, are they coming from 50 miles away, 20 miles away, a block around the corner? Then when are people most engaged? If we identify when people are most engaged, when do you think you're going to post too much? So when you're posting on social media, you find out that Google Business Profile, lots of people are engaged between 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock. start pushing out those photos, those videos, that content that we spoke about earlier by creating engaging posts. Lastly, you want to how engagements compares to similar listings. At this point, once you've got yourself up and running, you want to start thinking about how you can diversify your company. And you can start thinking, well, what are my competitors doing? And you can tap into the insights of how engagement compares to similar listings. Maybe there's another listing that's got your competitor who's getting lots and lots of views. Maybe you can have a sneak peek at their Google business profile and find out what they're doing. Now, I'm not saying copy and paste. What I'm saying is learn from what they're doing really well and incorporate that within your own business. So that's another great tip for everybody who's just looking to get some more ideas and are struggling to build up your profile is go look at your competitors. Look at what they're doing. Now, again, don't copy and paste, but take out the things that you really like and you can see that's working and pop it into your Google business profile. Of course, adapt and finesse it to your own. Then we want to think about a couple of insights. Now I'm going to ask you a question. So what would you do if these were your insights? Now it's got A, which is photo views, the number of times your business photos have been viewed. Now imagine this is your Google business profile. We've got two axes. The horizontal is the amount of photos all the way from 0 to 24. And the x-axis is from pretty much the 1st of July to the end of the month, which is the 30 or the 31st of July. And then we start to see a graph. Lots of people see it like there's 24 around the 6th of July, then it drops down. Then it looks like again in the 8th of July, it pops up again and it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. What would you do if these were your insights? What's the first thing that comes to mind to improve this? Pop it into the chat. Myself and Rashaan would love to know. We're quite time conscious, so I'm going to give you some time to think about that. So remember, A is what would you do if these were your insights? And these are all about photo views over the course of a month and metrics up to 24 views. And it's been a little bit of up and down, a little bit of a jagged. And if it's a little bit jagged, I could potentially give the answer here. What I would do, I would think about, okay, well, we are getting views and it looked like we got a lot of views in the beginning of July. Firstly, I'd like to know which views are getting the most views. So maybe I got quite a few photos, but how can I now increase the amount of views that I'm getting? And the easiest way to do that is to post more photos. When you post more photos, hopefully you'll get more engagement. Another one from Shuchera, which is wonderful. Thank you so much for being so engaged in today's session. I would like to analyze why the difference. Is it the quality? 100%. So is it the quality? Why are we getting less views later in the month than the photos in the beginning? Because it could come down to the quality. And then we should maybe think about posting more often to make sure we get more views. If we don't post, we don't get those views, but it's a great analysis that you've got there, Shuchera. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. Next one, we're going to go, what would you do if these were your insights? Where customers view your business. We have a similar graph, but they're same as views, 0 to 16, and it's in the month of July, almost the beginning of, no, it's actually the month of July, beginning of August. Orange is the amount of views on search listing. So on when you go to Google search. And the other one is through Maps search. Have a little bit of analysis of that and think about what would you do or what would be your thoughts when you look at these insights. Because once you all start getting a little bit better at analyzing these analytics, you're going to be able to start moving forward and really having a strategic approach on how you can start diversifying and making sure that your content reaches the right people at the right time. Pop it into the chat. We'd love to know. And thank you so much. We'll jump into the last part, which is using insights to find new customers. Understand your audience's behavior through the insights that you find, adapt to their needs, and reach new customers. Remember, this is going to be a lot of iterative processes where you're going to trial this, you're going to test this, you're going to test this, and you're going to try this. That's what everybody's doing, by the way, because we don't all know what the magic number is in terms of post or the perfect photo, but it's really, really important as you as a business. Once you've got your Google Maps listing up and running and you've got all the content that you need and you start to get a little bit of traction, dive into the insights. So what I'm going to do now is to see if there's any more questions. I don't see if there's any questions. One from Suchitera, is videos an ad extension for Maps? I don't see videos for all businesses locations that I look for. It's an interesting question. So when it comes to the videos with Google Business Profile, I'm almost convinced is that when you go into your dashboard, there will be something called where you can add photos or your logo or your videos. Now, what I highly recommend if you are in the UK, please book into those one-to-one mentoring sessions where we can really start to tailor and help your particular profile. But keep those questions in. I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to slowly but surely move on to the last part. We've got about 11 minutes left, so stick with me. Remember, attention spans are low. So I'm going to say huge kudos to all of you if you managed to stay attentive for the last 49 minutes. We've got about 11 minutes to go. Stick with us. We're going to go ahead and jump into the last part, which is engaging customers with Google Business Profile features. And I just want to cover what we've already covered. Number one, we established why Google Map. Well, first of all, we discovered when we're searching for businesses, we're looking generally through Google. Now, it could be slightly biased, but a lot of us will jump into Google and start searching for a business. So we learned a little bit more about what their customer's journey is. Then we learned how we can set up this Google Maps listing. Then we looked at how we can optimize it. Now we're going to look at furthermore how we can go and engage customers with our profile. And that's what we want. We want people to engage. And how do we do this? Well, if you've already looked at a wide range of functionality to optimize the Google Maps listings, but it doesn't end there. There's a huge range of functionality behind Google Maps listings and Google Business Profile in terms of categories, bookings, Street View, websites, gift cards, and donations. And all of these features will not always be applicable to all the businesses, because maybe you don't want to do gift cards. Maybe you don't want to do donations. Maybe you don't want to have a Street View. Actually, a Street View is pretty standard. But knowing that these features exist is very, very important that you tap into them. So when it comes to choosing your business category, when you are setting up your Google Business Profile, this is probably one of the main things that you need to focus on. Why? Because when you are selecting that primary category, you are now positioning your business within a category. Let's say, for example, I sell technical gadgets and computers and smartwatches and all that type of thing. And then what I do is I categorize myself in a nail salon. Now, that's a little bit extreme, but nobody's going to find your business. If they're going to find nails, they're going to go to nail salon. If they're looking for technology or gadgets, they're going to be searching for a specific term. And just to give you a little bit more peace of mind, the primary category is so important, but you will be offered the opportunity to add further categories. But it's very, very important that you establish what that main category is. Then we want to make sure that we increase bookings by a sign up. Now, you can add a link to your Google Business Profile listing to enable customers to book appointments. But please note, links to certain third-party booking services might automatically appear on business profiles. These links can't be edited in your Google Business Profile. Your listing can contain up to 2 links for your customers. Alternatively, you can add up to 10 links per category. Next up, you can use a third-party booking system. Let's say, for example, you want to book in an appointment, or you want to book in whichever it is, a hair appointment. You can use this using third-party booking systems. Again, if you'd like to elaborate on that, please make sure you book into those one-to-one mentoring sessions. And then last but not least, if you have a third-party booker provider, you can choose one of Google's supported scheduler providers, including a Bookertable, Treatwell, and TripAdvisor, and you can start tracking those bookings. And hopefully you're starting to understand that when we dive into insights, when we have the ability to track how your business is doing, that's going to allow you to start having a better approach to the future. Because you can look back at 1 year or 1 quarter or 6 months back, and you can go, what worked, what didn't work? Okay, let's focus on what did work, and let's make sure we put that forward in the next 6 months. And what didn't work, let's try to avoid that. Let's try to overcome that. But constantly learning more about your business and most definitely more about your customers will hopefully strengthen that connection that you have with your customers moving forward. Then you want to add a Street View to your listing. What are the benefits of adding a Street View? Well, I think I might have said it a little bit earlier. If you've created a Google Maps listing, you've added photos, you've added all of these amazing framed, well-lit photos, it's going to feel like improving the customer's journey. Because if I go online and I find your business and I find it on Google Maps listing, I look at the Street View and look at the directions. Okay, I'm going to take a walk, I'm going to take a drive. I finally get there, but because I've seen a Street View of what it looks like, when I'm actually seeing it in real life, I'm like, oh, that's where it is. Again, this is improving the customer's journey. It's avoiding the pain point of how do I find this place? It's so difficult to find it. The Street View is going to give people an understanding of what it looks like. A Street View can provide more information to your customers, enables your customers to make decisions, and not only from a decision point of how glamorous does it look, but maybe you want to be a little bit more accessible. So maybe somebody wants to come to your business or to your restaurant, but has a disability, or maybe is in a wheelchair. A lot of these individuals have to go out of their way to plan and organize their day according to what is available at the venues that they're getting to. So let's say, for example, you have clearly shown that there is wheelchair access to our restaurant. This is going to give them a peace of mind and could eventually lead to more visits from a range of individuals, some that you may not have thought that would have come before. Then, of course, helps customers find you. Now, with that being said, all of this information is going to be really, really golden. Once you've created your Google Maps listing, you're going to have a lot of information. But maybe you're thinking, you know what, I want to go a little above and beyond. Well, you're in luck. Because if you don't have a website and you want a website, Google Business Profile will help you. In other words, Google Sites. So inside the dashboard that we spoke about earlier, once you've started to populate your listing with photos, descriptions, videos, reviews, all that type of information, you can go into your dashboard and you can tap onto websites, and it will automatically take all the information that you provided and create a website. Now, this is not going to be a state-of-the-art website by no means at all, but you're going to have a website. And when you do create this free website, I'm going to give you an example of this. All you're going to do, if you're familiar with Google Maps, you're going to go to your dashboard, you're going to click onto your website. Once you've clicked onto the website, it's then going to open up and take all the information that you provided, and then you can change the theme to make it look the way you want it to. You can change the text to what font you would like. You could add in a certain photo or maybe another photo that you would like. And you can even just click go and publish, and it will be ready to go. Now, that's how simple it is. Within a matter of seconds, you could have a website ready to go. And that is a great way to give people a call to action. So give them a shop front. Well, this is my business. This is what it looks like. This is what we have to offer. Click here to get a quote, or click here to buy now, or do whatever you need to, but it is very, very, very convenient. And just say, for example, Google Business Profile is not something for you, which it should be for everyone. You can jump into something called Google Sites, and you can create your own website. The beauty of doing it through Google Maps listing is that Google Business Profile is that all your information will automatically create a website for you. If you go through Google Sites, you're going to have to start from scratch. However, they've got some amazing templates that you can start off and get ready, and it doesn't cost you a single thing other than your time to set it up. So I think I'm running tight of time. We've got about 3 minutes left. So I'm not sure if there's any questions. There's one, how much of the optimization is required to get my business on the first page of SERP? Oh, you already know what SERP is. For somebody who doesn't know what SERP is, SERP stands for Search Engine Results Page. I feel like you've been around a couple of these sessions before, but how much optimization is required to get your business on the first page? Well, it really, really depends to a lot of different factors. And I think if somebody had to search your business word for word, your Google Business Profile will pop up because your business profile is called exactly what that person searched for. Over time, what Google and everybody thrives on is up-to-date relevant information. So if you want to improve your visibility on Google, I would highly recommend, if you have a website, is using something called the Google Search Console. Google Search Console is going to allow you to find out how to monitor your website on the internet. In terms of your listing, I would just recommend that you update it as much as possible, get as many reviews as possible, and try driving as much traffic as possible to that particular listing. Once it becomes more relevant and more prominent, then there could be a high chance that your listing will appear. But a fantastic question. So what would I do for the next steps? Well, hopefully you can be like Sachatira, who's probably been through a few of our other sessions. If you haven't already, please click on the link in the description below. There are so many other amazing live trainings that are available to you. Now, I think they're still in the process of releasing the ones for October, so please keep coming back to visit. But alternatively, you can go to the website in the link in the description below and click onto the online course section. The online courses will give you a amazing course called The Fundamentals of Digital Marketing. And that is something you can learn at your own pace. You can even get a certificate towards the end, but it's going to give you a really good understanding around the fundamentals of what digital marketing is. And if you can understand the fundamentals, hopefully you can start approaching this better from a business perspective. So what we'd say last but not least is if you are in the UK, please go ahead and book into these one-to-one mentoring sessions. Myself and many other mentors are waiting to help you. So please go to g.co/UK mentoring, and hopefully we'll see you in a few of those sessions in the future. But without further ado, I'm going to say a big thank you to everybody that tuned in today, especially for those who've been here from the very beginning towards the end. And I really appreciate all your engagement, all your questions, and of course, a big thank you to Rashan, who's really handled the chat today, answered all your questions, popped in some amazing links, and I couldn't do it without her, of course. But I'd like to say a big thank you to everybody. Please give us some feedback. Our feedback is, Rashan has just popped it into the chat. It would mean the world to us if you take 2 minutes, 3 minutes to fill out that form to let us know how you thought about today's session. And if you want to shout about it on social media, make sure you hashtag Digital Garage. But without further ado, look after yourself, look after each other, and I would say bye for now.